Welcome to the second hour of the show from our Middle East programming headquarters. I'm Becky Anderson in Abu Dhabi, where the time is just after 6 in the evening. It is 5 p.m. in Gaza City, where thousands of Palestinians are fleeing as Israel says it's begun its ground operations there.
And I'm Isa Soares in Windsor, where pomp and pageantry are on full display for POTUS, for President Donald Trump's unprecedented second state visit to the United Kingdom. Becky, thank you very much. Of course, we'll be back with you in just a few moments. We'll take it from here for the time being, because it is set to be quite a jam-packed couple of days in the United Kingdom. And it all started here at Windsor Castle. We're inside the grounds of Windsor Castle. Just a few hours ago, we saw the royal family putting on a spectacular show for US President Donald Trump's arrival. Have a look at this. Love the sound. The President and First Lady greeted there by King Charles, Queen Camilla and the Duke and Duchess of Windsor for a lavish arrival ceremony ahead of a lunch with the royal family, which I believe is underway as we speak. We are expecting the President will be taking for a private tour of Queen Elizabeth's tomb this hour. In the meantime, it is very much a tale of two cities, quite a split screen. On the left of your screen is what we have been witnessing here all day in Windsor. The pomp, the pageantry for what is a historic second state visit. It is quite a different story if you look at the right of your screen. In London, central London, we're looking at live pictures on the right there with thousands of people taking to the streets to protest Mr. Trump's visit. People calling out, as we've been hearing from our Nick Robertson, everything. And you've seen the placards there from the war in Gaza, ending the genocides. You can see his relationship with the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. And we saw some of his images in the last 24 hours. A real counterpoint, really, to what is happening just down the road here in London, here in Windsor, I should say, where I've even seen some MAGA hats. Our chief international anchor, Christiane Amanpour, is here with me in Windsor. And Christiane, I mean, this is quite a split screen, isn't it? And this is something that the royal family and the government will want to shield the president from.
They want to shield him from it. He wants to be shielded from it. You know, this is, as we've seen over the last, that famous moment in the White House, in the Oval Office, where Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, pulled out that envelope and handed it to President Trump. This was an attempt, like all the allies and many adversaries, to get Trump on side and to make sure that they can have some kind of a political and economic and security relationship with him and thus the United States, in which they are not endlessly and further penalized. This obviously in the shadow of all the tariffs, all the demands that Europe pick up all overnight, the security burden just about for Ukraine and NATO and all the rest of it. So clearly, while these countries and Britain are being, talked about being toadies and this and that, they have a national interest in trying to keep the President of the United States on side. And if it takes flattery and if it takes pomp and circumstance, that's what they're going to do, and that's what we've seen them do. The real question is, what is the result?
That's exactly what I'm going to ask you. How effective do you think this soft power can be? Because on the question of Ukraine, we've spoken at length about this. There have been deadlines, there have been ignored, there have been lots of promises and pledges, and he hasn't really stuck with any of it.
Well,
right? So
in terms of punishing Putin, and this is key for the Europeans. Right now, Putin is escalating against the West by putting those drones into Polish airspace, by putting them into Romanian airspace, NATO nations. The Europeans, NATO nations have to figure out how to stay and hold the line, and still President Trump hasn't imposed those sanctions that he said. And a key senator, Alyssa Slotkin, a Democrat, said, we have a bipartisan agreement in the Senate right now, in the Congress, for all these sanctions to be leveled against Putin. Why don't you do it? And Trump comes back and he says, well, I'll think about it if you, Europe, stop buying Russian oil. So, it's all very much, and some people have sort of likened his authority on Ukraine or Israel or whatever as to standing aside and letting the strong men, and in this case Putin and Netanyahu, do essentially what they want to do. And you can see that. And without the United States using its leverage and exerting its unique heft, none of these things are going to get fixed.
Yeah.
It's just going to be slow, painful, and trying to figure out how to stay on the right side of Trump, meanwhile.
And it will be interesting to see, as we see these images from earlier on, this is the sort of thing he loves, right?
Loves it.
He loves pageantry, he will love a lot of the gold, he likes hyperbole, so, you know, all the hyperbole we'll see, you know, he will love the fact that this is some of the biggest displays he's ever seen, bigger than anyone else. How effective, though, Christiane, when it comes to the relationship between the king and the president? Do you think the king will go there when it comes to either climate change, which he feels so passionate about, Ukraine as well, or do you think he'll leave that and just focus today on really laying out the red carpet and the lavish ceremony?
I think certainly the latter, for sure.
Yeah.
The king, remember, Britain has a constitutional monarchy. They're not allowed to speak in public anyway, in any partisan or political way. That's this country's constitution. But as you say, he's very well known for years. I mean, he was ahead of the curve on the environment before anybody really seriously talked about it. And he was mocked when he was Prince of Wales for talking to the flowers. I remember that. I'm older than you. I remember it. And now he is in the vanguard, and so is his son, the Crown Prince, the Prince of Wales, in the vanguard of trying to maintain climate mitigation. And I'm sure he'll say something to the president about it. And the president actually is fond of the king, and was very fond of the Queen, has a real, I think, genuine like of the, maybe love even, and respect certainly of the royal family. The fact that he's going to lay a wreath on Queen Elizabeth's tomb is maybe it's part of protocol, but it's been highlighted as part of his visit. She accorded him, you know, a state visit, but that was in London, and then a special visit, which was here in Windsor. And, you know, I'm sure the Queen, who also didn't speak too much, you know, in public on sensitive issues, I'm sure she made it clear who was boss.
Oh, without a doubt.
When they were talking.
And he has spoken very openly about the Queen, very fond memories of his mother.
And he said to the travelling press on Air Force One before he landed, he said, you know, just enjoy it, right? He said, just enjoy it. It's going to be good. I love it. You know, it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful event. So that's what he's hoping to take away from it. And you can imagine a little bit, I don't know whether light relief is the right way to say it, but he's under huge pressure at home, the economy.
And we'll hear from the Fed today,
we'll
later on today.
Hear from all of that, but also, you know, the division since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the whole Epstein thing, which doesn't go away. So this is a welcome distraction and something he really likes.
And he's not the only one. He's not the only one, Christiane, who is under pressure at home. Keir Starmer. We'll see that tomorrow's Chequers. Speak to that, because he's lost, well, he fired two members of his parliament, of his team, of course, including the
Lord
diplomat,
Mandelson.
Pardon me, of course, and trying to distance himself from Epstein. That will also be focal centre, I think, tomorrow when we
you know, that's
question
going to be
press
very
conference.
interesting, and
Quite
Trump
heated.
is not going to like it. So imagine him trying to escape Epstein at home and then landing here, where all the press wants to do is ask Prime Minister Starmer, is he going to reconsider his own leadership? Who told him? Who didn't tell him? Who knew when? You know, what Mandelson and Epstein letters were and emails and this and that. I mean, it's a mess, frankly. It's a political mess. You always have to think of the victims. You always have to think of those who are hurt the most by Epstein. But the questions will keep coming. It'll be the first time Prime Minister speaks to the press. He had an interview, but that was with one broadcaster, you know, this week. It'll be the first time. Is he going to want his press conference with the President of the United States, who he has to keep on side, as I said, for every reason, trade, the economy,
Tariffs,
security, all of that, to be dominated by Epstein? I'm wondering whether they'll even take questions. Sorry, they didn't in Alaska.
Wow. Okay, that'd be quite something. They can shield him today, potentially not tomorrow, if that goes ahead, of course. No doubt the British press will push them hard on this.
This is a massively important visit. He is the President of the United States of America, and not much happens without the support.
So critical. Becky, I'll send it back to you. We're keeping our eyes, of course, peeled. We're expected and sometime in this hour to see the President. Of course, he's expected to lay a wreath in the tomb of the late Queen Elizabeth. Becky, back to you.
Gotcha. All right, to both of you, thank you, and a lot more to come this hour from Windsor. Also, as Palestinians in Gaza suffer, the European Commission is trying to find a way to pressure Israel. Details on the bloc's latest sanctions plan is up next.
On the small Turkish island of Chunda, no day starts without a coffee. Every morning, locals flock to traditional waterfront cafes.